Launch is imminent. Repeat, launch imminent.
Wrong one. Good afternoon, everyone, or hello, everyone. Welcome to my stream about Farming 101. Joining me today will be Rod from the Randalorians, which I think everyone knows, but a special guest for me, Agriculture from Gas, who is probably one of my heroes. One of the guys who really early on found that farming to be very important, and is one of the fathers or parents of the modern day squadrons, in my opinion. Welcome, guys. And if you want to say something each, probably start with you, Rod, and then we'll go to you, Agriculture.
Hey everyone, I'm happy to be here. This worked out unusually well timing for me, so yeah, I'm just glad to be here and thanks for doing this, Rebel.
Thank you, Rod. Definitely thank you for joining me. And like I know I spoke a little bit about agriculture, but I consider you the best farmer in the game today. I mean, there's without a doubt that your game sense and your teamwork is legendary in my opinion, and you have very few peers in terms of that, and I really appreciate that you can make today. Agriculture, if you want to introduce yourself really quickly before we go into the PowerPoint.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. I am agriculture 2020 or 21 or 22 or 23. It depends on the year. I was a part of the team Gas, who won the first Calrissian Cup Winter Minor. Kind of putting AI farming on the map, and the five tied defenders.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course the fight defenders. For a lot of us, I don't think we'll ever forget that finals. That definitely made it clear to everyone that boost gasping is the only way to win, especially after that first tournament. They op aces, right, where it was a little bit sloppier compared to that first. But definitely, yeah, you guys were legendary in that first win. Okay, let's get into this PowerPoint really quick here. And so today, guys, we'll try and talk through farming. I have great probably some of the best minds to talk about it, and I know it's a topic that a lot of people ask about, and how to optimize and how to get better at it, but more so why do we do it and why it's important to the game. So I kind of wanted to cover all of that, go over the history of it with agriculture, how he came for the game design came to find that it's very important and how we optimize it, and then we'll talk through some of his principles and understandings that he had learned very early on in the game. And then towards the end, I think Rod and I will help add some more flavor to the modern game and add some things that everyone who plays a bomber should know, at least when it comes to farming, in terms of be the best teammate they can possibly be. So, let's start with the first slide here. Why farm? So, I mean, farming is the fastest way to get morale, right? And I think Rod, agriculture, you can't, there's very little debate. I mean, a lot of PKers will hate that that's the answer, but it was a game design that they had designed early on. Not so much because this was the fast morale, but they wanted a low skill ceiling, for newer players to be able to add morale to the bar if they couldn't kill, right? But then agriculture, I think you found that it was the fastest way to basically flip the defenses. But even in the first month, because of how broken it was and the way the game was designed, that's the best way to keep on offense, right? Because there was like 10 morale or something like that per AI, and you could farm them so fast and they stayed on your side that you could just sit there AI farming all game long and never flip the phase, right?
Yeah. So at the start of the game, like it was um as the game like progressed a little bit, and I'm talking like the first, I don't know, 2 weeks, right? Um People picked up on the fact that you could, farm while being on offense,
Yeah,
and you could just like fly around and just farm AI the entire game. Like
yeah,
I never killed a cruiser, right?
yeah.
I was only farming the whole game, and that was so much fun. And I just fell in love with that playstyle very, very early on. I would probably say 2 days after launch or so. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, right? Because I think even today, a lot of people find farming to be boring, and I think it's tougher than it was then. But it's like I don't know. In a way, it's kind of like in League of Legends or in Dota, where there are laners whose job it is to deny or build the lane, essentially, right? And in farming, we are essentially dictating the game flow, right? And like you said, the first 2 weeks, you 100% dig through the game flow. It didn't matter how much damage you need to do because if you're always on offense, you were winning the game because no one was out of phasing, no one was counter farm. Well, it's hard to counter farm because the way the farms worked early on in the game was that they didn't really come to your side as deeply. So if you defended against defensive farming, you pretty much going to win anyway because you couldn't move the morale bar, right?
Yeah. It was pretty broken in that way, right? Because you could just like forward farm all
Yeah.
the time, and the other team had to be like incredible at like PKing, or it wasn't, gonna work, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that, because funny enough, because I think you could do that. You saw that the morale build was based upon it, even when it wasn't +10, but it was +5 per AI, which is astronomically high, right? They've nerfed that within the first month. They brought it down to 3, and then they fixed the AI pack, so the AI packs went deeper into the defensive zone because you guys, I know you were one of the first to discover that. You guys would just sit there on offense all day long, and the devs were like, "This is not the game as we intended. So we need to fix that, right?" And like because you guys, and like this is something I think also a great opportunity for you guys to kind of air some of the stuff because you guys, I know you talk to Tiber Moon, you talk to Charlemagne, you talk to the devs often, saying, "Hey, these things need to be fixed." So it wasn't like you were hiding the fact. I mean, you were hiding the fact from your opponents, but you were very open with the devs and trying to get them to fix it sooner rather than later. Correct?
Yeah. So like we had a friend who was like really active on Twitter at the time who, always brought up the things to the devs that we like try to like convey, right? And yes, we had a talk early on that we didn't want to like share information and such. We wanted to keep everything that we knew in-house in the team. We didn't want to scrim. We didn't want to like share anything. We played ranked and that's it, right? But yes, we did try to talk to the devs because a bad game is a bad game.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can still like play it, but it's not that fun, right?
Yeah, no, and I agree, right? And especially because I started talking to you a lot more like around the November, December timeframe, and you by then, like I heard, like you guys are a lot more. I wouldn't say you were sharing everything, but you're talking to devs, you were open with some of your ideas. But you're right, like if the game is bad, then it's not fun. But I think through that early work, you guys found some of these things which were just absolutely unfun about the game, which can be fun about the game, and made them more fun, which kind of brings us to today, right? And I enjoy farming because I can feel the direct contribution to my team. And even though it has a low skill ceiling, and maybe Rod, you can add to this, right? It's still a very difficult position, right? And Rod, the modern game, right? I think some of the best pilots are farmers because they're always in this evasive pattern while also doing work. We're juggling some of the hardest things to do, in my opinion, because the AI, even though they're predictive, are still can do some crazy stuff, right? I mean, for you, how do you feel about the modern game compared to like how it used to be, Rod?
I mean, if you're farming unpressured, that's not that hard. Like, I think a lot of people can do that reasonably well. There's some, if your mechanics aren't as strong as someone else, you'll be slightly slower.
Yeah.
But in most games, it doesn't matter. So if like you're never pressured, your impact as a farmer will be similar to a lot of like half decent players. But that's not how the game works. You're going to be pressured at various points, especially on opens. And that's really what separates like farmers out and what makes the role like feel hard to play.
Yeah, and like it's funny because in the modern game, it's everyone immediately is jumping. Like it used to be everyone on the Reaper, right? But then we found that the value isn't going on the Reaper first because the farmers can still win the open without the Reaper or the Ewing. But now the modern game, a lot of the top tier teams have different strategies for different teams on jump on this bomber versus that bomber or split the bombers kind of deal because we know that the value is there, and that leads to a whole like you have to have this is something we're discussing in the background we'll talk about later, but you have to have a plan going forward because if you are unprepared for your job in the open, your team is losing the open. And I think it even though it's like you just said, if there's no pressure, it's easy to do, but if you're under pressure, it increases the difficulty of farming is just so much harder. I think people don't appreciate that per se, in terms of how much work it takes to get to that like master level per se. But let's kind of like bridge into like the basic principle, and this is something that uh this is true for today as it was then. There's two basic tenets for farmers. There's the open, and then there's defenses. Though we did have a little discussion before this about offenses, but I think we'll kind of save that towards the end. But in the open, farmers, it's very important that you have an understanding of where they spawn, and something that agriculture will help discuss today, of how to get to those spawns as quickly as possible. It's something that all of us have drilled, that we've timed ourselves, right, Rod? Like, I mean, if I'm not at that first pack within 25 seconds, depending on the map, then something has gone wrong. Either I had to go full evasive, or I bonked, or I just screwed up, right? Like, we're already starting to lock our first pack within the first 25 seconds, essentially, on most maps. And then I think this is something you had pointed out, I forgot to include in the slides, that not only are we looking at our first pack, we're thinking about our second pack on the open, right? We want to know where the second pack is going to be in our timings. We want to be there the moment that we can. We have to communicate to our partners to make sure that, okay, are you down? Are you under pressure? I'll pick up the second pack, or I'm going to go back to spawn and pick up that spawn pack, right? And these are some, for us, some very basic stuff that we're so used to, but I began to realize when training some of the newer players that they don't think about this, right? And even something as simple as the evasion, like, yeah, we teach all new players how to do boost gasping, how to circle, how to multi-drift, but one thing that JP had taught me, and funny enough, I ride through your own experience, I see that, you said you came to the same conclusion I have. We sometimes use chaff to be defensive against ion missiles, but sometimes chaff is a good way of buying the time to get those Golo locks, right? Which leads to the last point in the open: don't die, because dying is a 10 morale loss, which is worse sometimes than losing via farm, because that's not only lost morale, but it's also a farmer down, which can't bring it up, right? So these are some of like the basic tenets of how we look at the open. And on defense, it's kind of that same thing where we want to be as forward as we possibly can to tighten up the time to spawns. And I think agriculture, you're going to go into this when you talk about later about how you found the AI packs and the timings. We found a way to shorten that up by being closer to spawn, and the closer you are to spawn safely, the faster you farm, right? Another thing is always, keep your AI farm clean. You always want to get as much of the 5-pack as possible. You don't want to create the weird spawn mechanics that occur when you don't clean up a pack. Once again, communication's important. If you don't speak well to your partner, you're going to farm on top of each other, and you're going to create a lot of issues for yourselves, right? And these are like very basic tenets that I think newer players miss out on, because they just say, okay, I got to get to the farm, I got to kill them, and I've been told use Golo and multi-lock, and I go to the next point, right? But even something recently, which I learned with some new players, I had said, okay, tell me where you are, and they were confused. I'm like, ping your pack. Like, the simple concept of ping your pack to tell me where you are, because they're like, I don't know where I am on the map. I'm like, okay, just ping your pack. And they're like, what? If you tell me where you are by pinging your pack, then I know where you are, and I'll know where not to be, right? And that's part of the communication aspect, which I think gets lost on players. But I know each team has their own different ways of communicating, and it can hurt the team, kind of deal. And I think I'll start with you, Rod. Anything you want to add to these basic principles that teams need to, that farmers want to think about, that you want to add and expound upon to kind of help educate some of the future farmers out there, if you will?
Yeah, so I guess I'll get specific with the basic of like getting to 2 packs when not under pressure. So this is intended for like the other farmers double, then you need to get as many AI as quickly as possible while they're trying to stay alive. The 2 packs needs to happen quickly, especially if you're NR, because like Empire might be able to just flip with farm if you don't get to the second one quickly. So you need to be fast. And this is where there's differences in farmers, is like this involves things like target cycling enemy players. And I want to note, not target my attacker, like enemy players. You need to see where everyone is, because they
Yeah.
might not even
Yep.
be targeting you, and target my attacker won't show them.
Yep.
And if you see that you're free, you need to play like greedy and aggressive with going after the AI, because you need to try to, like, a lot of times, like, you're trying to keep up with 2 farmers because your team is splitting, but they're doubling, and you can do that if you're aggressive, because the split pressure will slow them down a bit.
And I think,
And then the more advanced part is, then how do you handle the third? Do you
yep.
go to the third? Do you get the respawns?
Yep.
That's something you'll think about. like after, but the first two is the most important because that stops you from losing the open like quickly.
And adding, I mean, I want to add that. Like, I think communication. I said it earlier, but communication is a part of that, right? Just telling, because you said like you're cycling, you're seeing. Okay, I have probably one on me. I'll even say out loud to my partner, like, I have one on. You should have one on. I don't see the support on the cycle, so I think you have the support, and then they'll confirm, right? So you know that you'll have less pressure. So then I'll communicate. Okay, I'll pick up this pack. I'll go get the center pack. You go full evasive after you get your pack, right? But then we know our timings because if they break off of my partner, if like say Q gets free, she'll probably say to me, "Okay, you're gonna get the second pack. I'm gonna go to spawn." Right. And but everything you just said, I think adding communication as a part of that speeds it up, right? Because sometimes I think some farmers don't think about this and get lost in their own game, and then the other person has no idea what's going on and they don't know how to adjust, right?
Yeah, the comms on like on how pressure gets split openly or gets applied, the both farmers and the support should be involved in it,
Yeah.
like always. Just knowing where the, enemy fluxes are and where everyone needs to be. And it's important to know like who the support's gonna help first too.
Yep.
Then because that affects how you're gonna, as a farmer, how greedy you can be.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. It's funny because I think in some games, reading the other team, like, and part of it's also reading the other team, where I'll tell the support, okay, pocket me because I know I'm gonna get the double, and then we'll change our positioning, right? I'll say, okay, I'm gonna go for the weak side, you're gonna go for the strong side to my partner. And if I read the game right, it works out, right? Because like you said, like it just that communication helps by 3 or 4 seconds, and that 3 or 4 seconds is how we win games in SCL today, right? And I know for newer players, they don't think about the game in those little time slices, but for us at this like highest level, we're always optimizing in that way. We're like, okay, how do we buy these 4 seconds? Well, we do it this way, as you just said, right? And like your insight here was very, very good because I think this is high level gameplay that I don't think a lot of people think about. I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Rod?
No, I'm happy to
Yeah.
move on or
Yeah.
let agriculture
Yeah, I
chime
mean,
in.
yeah, I mean, agriculture. I know you and I have been talking about this during the week. Hearing this discussion, your thoughts about where you came from to where we're looking at the game today. How do you feel about that, and where do you think? And I gave you some videos. Like, how do you feel that you think that the game can kind of evolve forward with what we know today?
um, yeah, so today I watched probably like 10 games from the SEL from like season 7 to 11, I guess. And like just by looking at how people play today, which is of course like like a not even on the scale of how we flew back then, because it's way better now, right?
Yep.
People play, much faster and is much better with like boosting and such. But I think the like core foundations of how like AI farming uh, worked back then is true today in the sense that the optimizations that I thought was not possible in 21 but would be possible in the future with like better flying mechanics. Um, I think that's possible today with how you guys play now, right? But I just feel like maybe that information was kind of lost with me quitting, maybe or such. But I did like pick up on some things while watching those clips.
Oh, awesome. So how we do this? I moved actually to slide 4. So the way I built these slides, and I will share this with everyone on the stream. I'll share this with the community, of course. Like I want the community to get better in the game, so this will be stuff I want to share. But when I first talked about a month ago, you were very excited about what you saw, and you shared with me some of the stuff that you had from way back when. And these include these orange parts of all these slides here. These were some of your original ideas that you had about farming and how we could make it more efficient. And then I started adding stuff. I talked to Quintessence from Savret, well, now Randalorians, or not Randalor's Cab right now. And then I talked to Rod here, and we added stuff. So I think what we could do here is maybe the next couple slides is you can talk through your orange slides, how you came up with these principles and what your thought process here. And Rod and I could probably add more flavor to what we're seeing from the modern game to what you have here. So why don't you start here with advanced AI mechanics, and you can tell me you want to go to the next slide or whatever, agriculture, but I'll kind of let you lead for these next couple of slides.
Yeah, for sure. Just talk about a little bit about like how I came about to like, you know, like I guess like start playing this role, right? Because it wasn't really like I don't think it was like an intended role really to have like a farm role, right? But like I think two, maybe even on the day of launch, maybe because I think we played like 5 hours of like dogfights, just like learn the controls and stuff, and then we went into like fleet battles, and then I think in the maybe second or third game, someone flipped the first phase like insanely fast, and I was like, what was that? And then I looked at the scoreboard and saw that they had like AI kills, and I was like, huh, maybe that's good, right? And that's really the like start of it all. And then I thought, okay, which ship is better for this and that, and then I kind of went into that role, right? And so with that, I had to learn about these like AI mechanics because it's not the same as being like a PK player where you have to like react to how other players are playing because this is like a scripted thing, right? So this could be like watched and learned. And so I had to go into, there were no custom lobbies back then. There was like fleet battle versus AI. And so I had to, look at how the AI worked in that mode. But as I found out later on, fleet battle versus AI is not the real game. And once they changed the like AI pathing and all that, I had to relearn it all again because
Yeah.
I found, oh, it's not the same. Cool. um, but yeah, like so I learned that if you kill an AI, it will always return to its squadron. So you have a pack of 5 and you kill 3, the 3 will spawn and like return to that squadron where that squadron is like currently circling, right?
Yeah.
And those spawn ships will like beeline to catch up to the squadron, and they will actually fly faster
Yeah.
than a fully killed pack. Which I thought, maybe you could like optimize that, right? Like maybe if you don't kill off all of them, maybe you could, let one live and the other 4 would come back faster. That could be a good idea, but in practice, that's kind of not that good. Yeah, so that's probably this first slide.
Yeah.
Like if you kill the whole pack, it will come back slower, but it's a lot better to like play around with.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, right, and two denims that I think I made to that was because of what you just said, that that broken pack aspect is something that catches a lot of people off guard, and it's even worse with lag because of the client to server relationship. And for those watching, if you don't know what I'm talking about, is that the server is the master of all the game data. So your client side, your what you see will sometimes be delayed from what's actually on the server side, which is even made worse by if you're an American playing against an Australian, it could be counted in seconds sometimes. So, like you just said, those AI packs are flying back to where they're catching up, but the lag can make that distance be longer than what it looks like. So, if you're playing against an Australian or European and you're American, you might want to fire your multi-locks a little bit closer than you think you need to. Because you fire them at range, they hit the almost close to maximum range, like 900 meters. They may never actually hit the AI, and you will have wasted your MLMs there because the client to server will have weird mechanics in that way, right? I've been telling a lot of people, hey, farm a little bit closer when you're playing on a laggy server because you will not be able to get away with the stuff you normally do on non-laggy servers. But also, to your point of trying to find the optimization, I think, Raj, you could agree with me, is that we've discovered that the best thing to do is farm, then get right back to spawn and farm again, right? Like S-List is a great example of that. In S-List, 30 seconds, done. You can, a great defense is 30 seconds or less, essentially, because the moment we kill a pack, bam, there's a pack right there waiting for us as we turn around, essentially. So definitely, I think,
Yeah.
there's optimization. Oh yeah, Rod, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if you can farm respawns like quickly, that's ideal. That lets you do things like, I mean, you don't often need it because if to get 75 morale, like 3 packs, a raider, and either one kill or an oop is enough.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the kill or the oop, then you can, get the respawns really quickly. That speeds it up. Or you just end up skipping raider or something like that too. Yeah.
And I mean, but to come back to the idea of that, and you're going to talk about this in a second, but knowing the timing of the spawns and where they're going to be, like, I guess for me, I knew that they're going to be back in the same spot after like 30 to 45 seconds, but saying that out loud and knowing it in your heart is two different things, right? And I don't think some people realize that, the spawns are going to be at a certain spot at a certain time, and knowing where they are really helps you when things are going south, because you can clean them up and then go back forward, right? And I think that's very important. But I think
I'll add that there's
Right.
some stuff that isn't reliable with how they path,
Yeah.
especially on maps where they interact with like the environment. So
Nadiri.
on Nadiri, they might run into a wall. Like you might hit a 5 pack, and if you watch it respawn, it'll hit into a wall, and it will never like converge to a 5 pack again.
Yeah.
And it's just how I don't know if it's like RNG they programmed into the game or whatever, but some stuff like that happens too. So generally, the earlier you can get the AI in its path, the more reliable you can know its position.
Yeah. And I think I think agriculture, this is like the next slide. I think that idea, right, is like probably a great fundamental for farming. Knowing the timer of the pack helps you build a cadence and a rhythm to move more and more forward. I mean, is that something that you had in mind, or like you just like, you're like, oh, I just got this is groundbreaking. Like, just we have to understand how the packs are basically timed to optimize. Like, what was your thought process here?
Yeah. Um, so back in the day, like we didn't really think about, like killing a pack and then moving forward to like kill it faster, right? Because the game was not quite in the same state as it is now, and people didn't really know that you could, like move into the into like over the cruisers and still farm and stuff like that. So we kind of kept back, right? But just knowing that when you killed a pack and you looked at the timer and you knew that in 60 seconds that pack was going to be back, then you could do other things like killing the raider or such, right? And like today you can use the timings in like insane ways, I think. But we will talk about that later, I guess. But like knowing the timings of your packs. So let's say you're a pair, and
I can go to the next
you
slide if you
take-
want, 'cause I think you covered this next slide.
Oh yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So like the so here, like you're a pair, and the guy on the right kills the pack on the right, and the guy on the left kills the 2 packs on the left, right? And once you know that that when you kill a full pack and you look at the timer, then you know when the pack is going to return to that spot. After around like 30 seconds, it's going to reach the center point of the map, right? And knowing that, and even calling that out maybe to your partner, can help you like synergize your communication in a way that if one guy gets like what's it called, like a PK'd,
Oh, there we go.
kind of know that, okay, like that pack will be back at that timing. But of course this adds like another it adds another layer to the farming because you have to keep track of the timing so much, and that could be hard to like learn. But I think
Yeah.
if like modern gameplay farmers could like could like try to make a habit of just looking at the timer more or like calling out specific timer points, that would be really good.
The fun part is I agree. And Rod, I know you've been playing with a lot of higher level players, but I mean, I guess because I've been playing with a lot more mid tier players, I think for me, I've been doing that where I will call the strong side, right? And then I'll tell my partner, go to the weak side. And then if I'm under pressure, I'd say, hey, you need to be here in 10 seconds or like 5 seconds because there's gonna be a pack like right here. And I'll even like cycle and ping the pack kind of deal to kind of help find those optimizations with some of the more mid-tier pods. But for you, Rod, I don't know like how you like, do you have that kind of line of communication, especially since you've been flying with a lot more top tier partners lately?
So I will like tell them like go get this pack if it's one that I don't think they noticed or that they may not have noticed. Like a common situation is like I got a pack or I saw one and I'm under pressure and can't get either the respawn or the pack itself. And so I'll tell them get this, it's in this area. So that's an example where I'll communicate.
Yeah.
Um,
But this timing
but
concept is
this is
good.
something I think I don't explicitly say like be here in 10 seconds. I'll say something like there's going to be a respawn coming I don't say exact times. I might say like in roughly, x amount of time,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like I just let them know to look for it.
yeah, yeah,
And then I expect them to know what I'm talking about.
yeah. But I
That's
mean,
something I think more farmers should do. I think it would help a lot of teams.
oh, you're,
Um,
you're about to say what I was gonna say. I mean, absolutely right. And even this, I think this and to agriculture, like this is a great slide because I think explaining the space in time, I think is better for farmers, in my opinion. It also helps with like when I teach like we need to find the optimizations here, or the game is won in time. This shows that game won in time, right? Because like you said, like if you're farming so deep that you're wasting 15 seconds looking for packs because you're waiting for them to get to you as opposed to going more forward but working with your partner to make sure that the farms are closer and closer to the midline, right? That just wins you games essentially. And in some maps it's easier versus others, and that line of communication you just said is important, right? And when you stop communicating or your communication's poor, it forces the packs further back, thus you're losing time, right? I mean that's how I see it. I don't know about you, Rod.
yeah, some reasons I would prefer space over time is I don't always know like because the time will depend on how long that pack's been around. Like maybe it's a pack I haven't even touched, but I'll just know like yeah, go to your right. Like sometimes let's say my co-farmer died and they're respawning. I'll tell them where to go when they spawn, and it's just like I'm basically telling them where I am,
Yeah.
because I want them away from me. And I know there's a pack in that area, but I don't know like it's not like a time thing exactly that I'm pointing out, but I'm telling them the area and they'll get to it as fast as they can.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? Because like that you farmed on the middle to left side, so there has to be a pack on that right side. Like you said, like I wouldn't memorize that we were on the 45th second of the defense, but at this point there has to be a pack there. Like there's no way there's not a pack there. If there isn't, then something is wrong. Right?
The other thing with the time is I dip in and out of the danger zone, so I don't even see the clock for parts of my farm. So then it's like I could have a stopwatch, I guess, on my desk, but I mean, I feel like my game sense is enough. I don't
Yeah.
need like an explicit clock.
I need you to tell that to Sagan. Sagan yelled at me in the past. Where he's like, "You should know." I'm like, "Dude, I don't see the time. I'm in the danger zone right now." That's a good comment though. Like you said, like just having a cadence, like your own natural cadence, helps in these
Yeah, with
situations.
experience, you should have a feel for it. Yeah, like, you can like I'll put it this way, on opens, like if I farm a pack and I know where I want to get it when it respawns, I never check the clock, but I know exactly like when to go. Like I
Yeah,
just feel it in game, like I know what to do.
yeah.
So like my internal clock is accurate enough for me.
I think that's also because you and I have like someone like you or I have been playing this game that long that, like you said, like your internal clock knows it knows where it needs to be. But I mean, agriculture, honestly, but putting these numbers to the paper here is really, I think, helpful for newer players because these are years of experience for someone like me and Rod, whereas some of the newer players just don't have that kind of experience. So this is great, in my opinion. This is something that's always been hard for me to vocalize. I'm really glad that you've had this and were able to share this with us.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the next slide, just really quickly for everyone. These are the pathings that we were talking about earlier, that you recorded, right? So, I mean, I'll share this document with everyone, but if, I think every player, even flexes, should know where these pathings are, because that also, as an offensive weapon, is something, because I've recently been playing flex a lot more. Because of my experience, I know where the bombers are going to be. So I'm already sitting in the spaces where they're supposed to be, putting pressure on them and hoping to break up their timings, essentially, right? So I think this is like a very, very invaluable piece of history that I can't believe took this long to finally come out. And I'm very excited to share this with everyone. I don't know if you want to speak to this before we go to the next slide, or if you want to go to the next slide or not.
Sure. Yeah. So you don't show these on the stream now, but these clips are essentially it shows like each faction, each map, from usually both like a top view and like a front view of each AI pathing, and I drew like a line of like 3 colors to show where the AI packs are going, so you can kind of see it for yourself. And I did this because I spent, hours and hours and hours, probably like the first 2 months of the game, roughly, actually not really playing the game that much. I was in custom matches trying to learn this. Because if I learned it and I put all those hours into it and made all these clips to like show my team later, it wouldn't take that long for them to like learn it.
Yeah.
And this was kind of the idea that we each had, like roles that we like, or like tasks that we put onto the team. And one person was in charge of like learning about this like one specific task, right? And then once they mastered that as much as they could on their own, then we brought it to like a team meeting and everyone like chimed in and stuff. And this is how we, probably learned about all of these things. And so the first video actually on this list here is as it says, it's a proof of concept video showing that you could dump fire a Golo into a newly spawned pack and kill it 15 seconds after you killed the first pack. And I only did this on one map and on one pack because I knew that our like flying techniques weren't good enough yet. But in the future, it would be possible to, cycle around in the midfield and killing AI, and then just knowing the timing, shoot a Golo at the flagship, kill a pack from afar while doing something else. So you didn't have to move up and stuff, right? And this was actually, I guess, after the winter major that we lost in the finals, right? After that, I wanted to learn these timings on every single map, on each of the packs and all that, but we never really got to that point, and I kind of quit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting concept. I think you had this discussion, but I think it's an interesting concept because it allows, especially when you're farming deeper, like you said, it allows you to get those packs, fire the Golo, and then go maybe find the third pack or help PK. But this is a question I actually was in my head trying to see how to propose it to Rod. But Rod, I think part of the problem is consistency, right? If you can't consistently do it, then it's an aux and time lost, right? Do you think there'd be
Just
value in
so
that?
I'm clear, we're talking about on like a regular defense,
Yeah.
firing the Golo to AI response?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. There's a few like, well, I guess there's some technical issues. One is the server latency will affect these things. Like just whatever desync, like if I'm playing, just to give background, like I've played, there was a season I played with Beck, so I was playing on Euro servers that whole season, and I live in West Coast US, so that was like close to 200 millisecond ping I was playing that season. Um, I've played a number of games where I let like Hobbs and Chupacabra host, like one of them host. So I played on Aussie server. That's like another 200 or a little
Yeah.
over millisecond ping. And I've played other games where various other people hosted, and it could range in different parts of the U.S. or in other continents as well. And so all this stuff would affect like those timings
Yeah.
because when I say launch a Golo, it might not launch right away. There might be like a delay, so all that stuff would affect it. So that's one technical part is like it would be very hard to like be consistent given that,
Yep.
especially if your internet itself won't be consistent. Because like even if you have good connection, the ping might fluctuate between like 10 and 40 milliseconds, and that might be enough to mess things up. Um, the the other thing I would say, there's a technical aspect, is I haven't like watched every pack respawn on every map on the flagship, but I've watched some, and they don't respawn exactly like in formation. They're like a little split and they
Yeah.
converge.
Yeah.
So your window of hitting them is like a little awkward because you have to wait until like they group up, and so you'd have to time that out. Like, oh, they respawned and now they're grouped again, and I can hit them. And then the last thing I'd say that make it difficult is like if you kill the 5 pack, then there'll be five respawning. Um, but you might have not killed them in exactly the same time, especially if you use multis. And so they will like be clean after some time, but that might delay when they come clean.
Yeah.
Because the one that first respawns will be like a little ahead, and then eventually they'll group up. Um, so that might mess it up too. And then we can get into, well, what if you didn't kill 5? You don't know what happened to that fifth AI. It might have died to the environment, and they'll actually respawn together. It might have also be off in a random part of the map, and that 4 pack won't be like clean for you to go low, and so that would mess it up too. So there's like practical things that would make it difficult to do.
Yeah, and I kind of, and that's kind of like where my stance was as well. Is like in practice, in not practice, in principle, it makes sense, but because of everything you just said, right? There's no consistency that theory, and if it goes south, you've wasted a Golo, and on top of that, like you said, you don't know what happened to that pack now. So now, are you when that pack comes in, is it you don't know if it's gonna be a 5, it's gonna be a 3, and you have to give it time to reform, which is more time lost, right? So I can see the value of it if we had, like you said, consistent servers where we could practice this and really iron it out. But in actuality, I agree with you. I just, especially, and I've been with you where I've played with Aussies, and it's a nightmare because everything changes. Your whole timing, not only in your mechanical gameplay changes, but also just the farming changes because you're just like, oh man, like you kind of feel off sorts sometimes when things are going really bad. So I kind of
This
agree with you
this
there.
this is something like advanced we could bring up, but there's two like we don't have to talk about this now, but
Yeah,
like there's things you can do to manage being on high latency. And there's and another important aspect is like managing your auxes.
yeah.
And we don't need to get into it, but those are two things that you can do. I wouldn't worry about it for like a new player. Um, but I think people overstate like how hard it is to play on a different server.
I
Australia to Europe is like unplayable basically, but not. I think 200 millisecond pings, it will make you play worse, but it's like manageable.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you, but definitely it's something that you have to be mindful of. But yeah, we can talk about that in a little bit because I think we have an advanced section which we can kind of add more notes there. So yeah, again, these are the farming paths. Very recommend everyone look at this, not only farmers but flex players, to understand positioning. So kind of like the next couple slides, I think were advanced ideas you had of how the packs move through the space, right? Agriculture. I don't know if you want to what you could add to this or what you want to talk about in these next couple slides here. So I'm on slide 8 at this point.
Yeah. So in this picture, like the Y-wing, kills 4 out of 5 in a pack, and so now 4 spawn, and those will like beeline to where the last one is in the pack, but they will arrive, at the back of the cruisers here in 45 seconds ish instead of like 60 seconds. So that may seem like that's better, because if you can kill 4 every 45 seconds or 5 every 60 seconds, it's obviously better to kill the 4. But we run into like weird problems where you kind of get lost and then they get stuck and then they do things, right? But it's just to like it's just as a way to like maybe like teach new players mainly that this is what happens, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty good to know.
I think the one weird edge case, and we know the answers, but I think just kind of as a way of being a new guy asking you. So say that the pack is catching up, but you kill that fifth one. That fifth one spawns behind the 4-pack catching up. So what happens to the 4-pack? Do they go back to regular speed? Do they speed up? What happens in that weird edge case behavior where you kill the lead on a pack that's being chased? What happens to the chasing pack? What happens to that? Do you know? Or
I
maybe you don't know.
think I knew then, but I can't actually remember.
I know, Fraud, if you knew off the top of your head.
I guess I'm not 100%, but I believe they like behave more normally. They don't
Yeah.
like they're not jetting anymore because they fly really fast when they're catching up.
Correct. Yeah, they do
Yeah.
fly normally. And it's something I kind of teach the new players as well. As like, look, you have to be very careful. Like if you know there's 2 by themselves, you have to be like I sometimes tell them, hey, just wait. Like go find another pack that's a full 5, because that will be a 5-pack in like 5 seconds. And sure enough, they'll turn around and there it is. It's a 5-pack, right? Because it catches up. But if you kill those 2, then they'll be stuck out in space, and now you have another 2 chasing. Now you create this whole like recursive problem of packs chasing each other but never having a full 5-pack, which is actually, as we were saying earlier, it's actually slower because you're only getting 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, instead of getting 5, then going up to where it's spawning, then getting 5 again, right? Like you don't want to create the ladder problem of it just always constantly making only 2s and 3s, and that can kill offenses, or defenses, excuse me, very badly.
Yeah, and it's the big swing in the morale bar that sometimes like flips the face, right?
Yeah.
Because you need that, like big push. Yeah.
I'll go to the next one. So I guess. Oh, so in this one you're saying that. So in slide 9, basically it's the opposite of what you just said, right? You kill the 5-pack, then that will be. It's going to take its time to get to that position within the 60 seconds. Then, correct?
Yeah.
I think this next one is. So, I see. So the difference between 9 and 10 then is that you're saying that in 9, it will go to the position of where the 5-pack was killed, versus at the start of the open, it follows a more natural path. So a cleaned up pack will have a slightly different pathing than a fresh pack on transition, is what 10 is indicating.
Yes. So yeah.
Yeah. So make sure that's what. Yeah, I mean that's good information too, right? Because I think a lot of especially 9 here, I think could be lost to some people if they're using MLMs to clean up, right? If they're using MLMs to clean up, you get that 5th one, then that causes the weird respawn behavior where, like you said, they're chasing towards the position they want to be at, versus going to their natural wide circling path, essentially.
Yeah, and then if you kill a 5-pack like clean, then you also know, once you've studied how they move, then you exactly know how that pack is gonna return and like come in. Whereas if you only kill 4, they're gonna, fly somewhere else towards some kind of path that
Yeah.
the last one is on. So if a full 5-pack is coming in, then you know how to approach that because you know each pack, right?
Yep. And then I think like this behavioral knowledge is, I think, important. We said it a lot, right? Because it's how you know your zones and how you know where you need to position yourself to get the packs as quickly as possible, so you can inch forward more and more as the defense goes on. Because like you said it, Rod, like 5 packs is enough to win the defense. So the quicker you can get those 5 packs, you don't even need the Raider sometimes, but the Raider does help. Obviously. It makes it quicker.
Well, so something to keep, I guess, like the respawn stuff is more important on opens when they drag out, but on defenses, most of the time you will not need more than 3 packs
Yeah.
because your flexes will get a kill or an oop, and you will get Raider. So like the really big thing is just getting the 3 that are initially there, or 14 or 15 as fast as you can.
That's
Um,
actually a good, yeah. I mean, that's a good comment, right? I think people miss out on like, because there's 3 at the spawn. So getting those 3 on the top of your defense as quickly as possible means that you'll have a 30-second defense, one way or another, essentially.
in practice, like on most maps, you don't have like 3 cleanly to kill, and even on Yavin or S-list, things out of your control can happen.
Yeah.
AI die to the environment, and that can mess up your defenses.
God.
I've even seen AI crash into each other and
Yeah.
die. And if there's a 5-pack and 2 of them die like that, now it's 3, and it'll never be like a good spawn again.
Yeah.
Like depending on the map, but like Yavin, they'll probably eventually be good again. But like if it was on Galatan, like, oh, your 5-pack will just probably never be a 5-pack again, or the time it takes to wait for it will be way too long, and you'll flip faster by just farming singles even. So you just have to like do what you can and just try to get the 14 or 15 as fast as you can.
And I'm actually on the additional notes slide, and the last comment you made was something that you had made to me in the background about sometimes we put too much stock into 4 and 5s for Golos, but on maps like Nadiri, Fostar, even sometimes on Galatan, you sometimes just want to use those Golos to get as much of the pack as you can because flipping is more important than pride or whatever you want to put it. I think
What I would say is like this will affect a lot of things that I see like farmers I think don't do well. But what you care about is flipping the phase as fast as possible. Not unlike you don't care about how many AI you actually killed.
Yeah.
You don't care about like how well you did relative to your co-farmer. All you care about is how fast your team flipped the defense.
Yep.
And that means sometimes it's correct for you not to farm and to help with Raider. Because like I said, you got Oop, you got Raider, and you and your co-farmer each farmed a pack, and only one of you needs to get the third if it's like a 5. Like if this is Yavin or Essos or whatever. One gets the third, and then the other goes help with Raider. Or if you don't even need Raider, you can build up overcharge lasers to prep for the attack. Like you wanna spend time doing things that are useful.
Yeah.
And so
great comment.
this leads to other things though. Like if if shooting a Golo at a single AI will help me flip faster than if I had saved the Golo, then I should seriously consider doing it. And an example where this comes up, I would say more, is I'm on Nadiri and I kind of only have singles to work with. There's a single that's moving away from me, and it's moving towards our own team's like flagship. I don't want to be there. I want to try to like move back so that when we flip, I can transition to offense quicker, and that AI will drag me away from where I want to go. And if I have extra Golos, like if I have 3 or maybe even 2, I'll just shoot it at it, get the single, and then go back and farm the others. That might have saved me 3 seconds, like longer, that I would have had a shot at the AI because it was moving away from me. And that type of stuff like can matter in a game.
Yep.
And this goes to how you manage Oxes too. Like if I have, a resupply gives you 4 multis and 2 Golos. So if I have like 3 Golos and 1 multi, I might be more wasteful with Golos just because I have extra especially if I'm low on health too, so I need a reset for health as well. And this comes up more in TIE Bomber. Like you can in situations, especially on maps where the packs are clean, like Yavin, you want to be careful because you don't want to mess them up. But on maps where they're not, it's okay to be more wasteful because a lot of times your resupplies are on a cadence for your health due to chip damage you take and not due to your ox usage. So the correct thing to do is to be more wasteful with oxes, and I'll put this in quotes. Wasteful in the sense that like you don't use all 4 multis or you're goloing 1 or 2, just because you have extra anyway. So you might as well use them to help you flip a few seconds faster.
I have nothing to add. That's bang on. I mean, that's absolutely bang on. I think like these are small. Like the comment of it won me 3 seconds is the reason you think like that, right? Because that 3 seconds wins a game, and it adds up over time. And I stress this a lot to people I'm teaching that, you know, you don't think those 3 seconds add up, but if those 3 seconds become 15 seconds, that's a won or lost base race at the end of the game. Right, so that's where you want to win those games.
Yeah, what you need to think about is like most of the time these small actions that I'm talking about don't matter because most games with like the current mod set are, you know, you win in 3 attack phases. You win in 3 or 4 attack phases, and so your goal is to either win the open and win in 3, or if you lost the open, you survive 3 and win in 3. Hopefully you don't have to take 4, but if you do, then you know you survive to make it.
Yeah.
And so like shaving off 3 seconds doesn't mean much when you're on attack for for like minutes, I guess, over the course of the game. But what happens is like sometimes, like you said, these 3 seconds turn into like 15 or 20, and you don't know ahead of time if that'll happen. Because sometimes, like, I'll give a few examples of this. Because like let's say you're trying to get to a pack, and this might happen on Fostar. That pack is 5, and if you get to it before it gets into the station, you'll have a good respawn, and this lets you flip really quick on Fostar. Because normally you don't always get packs like that.
Yeah.
But if you don't get to it in time, it'll split, and then you'll never get it clean.
Yep.
And I have seen players, because their mechanics aren't quite there, or just they mess up their gasping a bit, they don't get to that pack in time. They're just 2 seconds late. And so now their defense is like 20 seconds later because they couldn't get that 5 pack in the respawn. And that's the example where that 2 seconds matter. Another example where the 2 seconds matter is like, let's say you flip like I said, you're kind of wasteful with your oxes, but it lets you flip the phase a few seconds faster. Now the opposing team needs to spend 5 to 10 seconds more on ooping, and this is how it like feeds into your offense. If the flexes are doing it, now those flexes aren't set up to get a kill as quickly, and maybe they just don't get the kill, or they don't get the kill at the critical moment because the Reaper gets a mark that they might have been able to stop. Now your offense is like 15 to 30% more efficient because of that. Another example would be maybe the flexes don't oop, but the farmers sit on it. But the farmers have to sit on it longer because the oops higher for them, so their farm's slower, and so now they lost a bunch of time there. And so like it doesn't seem like a lot, and it doesn't always happen this way. Sometimes it doesn't matter, and I would say most of the time it doesn't matter. But sometimes those 2 or 3 seconds translate into 15, and you don't know at what point in the game it happens. But if you're saving 3 or 4 seconds, like 4 or 5 times in the game, one of those might be what makes you win the game. And that's like how people, I think, should think about it.
Yep.
Is it's not like guaranteed to make you do better, but probabilistically, like eventually it will.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't say it any better myself. You're absolutely right. And it's something, even when I cast, I say at the end of a match, I'm like, oh man, they lost 4 seconds here, and that lost in the match, because it like you said, it could just very well be a steamroll effect of a more inopportune oop, or like you said, farmers being in the wrong position because you force them in the wrong position by you being faster. Which then leads to something like a better position for a base race, or you never need a base race kind of deal, right? I think it's very important that we look at farming as not so much something we have to do move morale. It is, but something that we have to optimize to make sure we're in position to do the next thing we need to do very quickly and earnestly, like you said earlier, agriculture. Like we want to make sure that we are doing something at all times that is pushing us forward, and we want to be in the positions to do that. And your comment about goaling something going backwards is one of those small things that some of us do, but don't think about saying out loud to other players because, we know that, okay, that's going away from where I need to be. Screw this. Here's a goal. I'm just going to go back to the position I need to be kind of deal. Right? And that's a great comment. I'm so glad that you said that because that's such a small detail that makes or breaks a great farmer, like you said. Your comment was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think for modern gameplay, like just from the like clips I watched, right? Obviously the server lag, okay. Maybe you only apply the stuff I'm saying now to like games when you're not on like some type of like server lag, because you can't really control that, right? But at least in the games I played back then, which was also hosted by people like and I'm guessing the servers are the same now. Like our timings worked like every single game, and so if you're not on like some weird like server lag thing, then you could technically learn that pathing, I think, and apply that to modern play. Especially when maybe on the offense, you could technically, I think, learn while you're doing the orbit on like a cruiser, you could time killing a AI pack on the flagship if you like go low it, and then you go back to like doing the cruiser killing, and then you go back 15 seconds after and kill the pack. I feel like that is possible to be able to apply into modern playstyles with the way that I saw the games being played. But obviously, you would have to have someone like me back in the day learning all those things and then trying to like teach it to people.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thought, right? So you're saying on offense, Y-Wing on cycle could farm on offense a 5-pack and then go do damage and then kind of do that to elongate the offense. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. So
Interesting.
I feel like you could have both bombers on offense. One is on Cruiser A and one is on Cruiser B, or C and D, I guess it's called. And technically, you could cycle 2 packs every 15 seconds for a total of, let's say, 10 morale or 9 or so, right? And like, how long time does it take for like a PK player on average to like kill a player? If anyone knows.
I think right now the average is about 20 to 30 seconds, give or take.
Okay.
It'll be something. I mean, it varies because
It varies, yeah.
they'll get
Yeah,
the kill
yeah, of course,
quickly.
yeah.
Other times they won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's probably around how long Mark lasts, which I think is 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because like in the games that I watched today from like season 11, I guess it was, I felt like Lorhin could like orbit the cruiser, kill a pack, orbit the cruiser, kill a pack, and so on, if it was timed right. And that got me kind of excited a little bit about maybe that's actually possible.
I think, but there's a balance to that, right? I think because the best for let's pick the Y-Wings, well, both, but Y-Wings in particular's biggest value on the midships is taking the turrets. Each turret taken is 1%, right? If you clear that all off, that speeds it up considerably. So I think number one priority for Y-Wings is still to strip the cruisers, but I think on attack 2, when both cruisers should already be stripped, one should already be dead at this point. You make a good point, especially depending on how high that cruiser is. You could buy enough time back doing that as opposed to PKing
Yes.
That's like, 'cause that's the other option of why we can do is PK to slow down the opposing farm, right? But which would give you more value faster? I think this will be map dependent as well, because Rod made the correct comment earlier that some maps, the offensive farm, the packs are broken, but where the packs are together, you theoretically could buy back time there. But this
So
is something worth
this
thinking about.
I've looked into this to some extent. Packs aren't consistently together when you're on offense. That's like one issue. What I mean is you're not always going to see five. AI just die a lot to the environment. It's just like a high amount, so like they can get messed up even on offense. And I've done things where I just went into a game by myself, so it's my server. There's
Yeah.
no issues there. I just sit on offense looking for like is there like a clean 5 pack to kill? And there just isn't for like long periods of time. Um, so the behavior isn't always going to be good. I guess you could potentially like check if I get the 5, I'll get it and get respawns. But I guess there's for each faction, the thing you got to consider is when you're doing that, you're sacrificing damage.
Yeah.
On Empire, you're the big damage dealer as TIE
Yeah.
Bomber, and I just straight up think it won't be worth it. Like I don't care if my offense is a little longer. If I'm spending a lot of time like on AI rather than like having rotary on the cap ships, because it just does so much damage, and you need to just max out your time on target in a TIE Bomber.
Yeah.
On Y-Wing, there's something, it's a little bit different because your main constraint is laser energy, and it's not like time on target. And so what you could think about doing is like after you strip the turrets, you might decide like let me spend some time doing something else. And if that's farming a pack, you could try to just charge overcharge lasers during that time and then come back and use them.
Mhm.
That might work in some situations. The thing though is like your windows for doing damage aren't super high, and I feel like I feel pretty strongly about this when Y-Wings PK on offense. You're almost always better off just doing damage. Because Y-Wing damage, like a lot of people don't know this because of the stats, or don't think about this because of the stats, but it's comparable to X-Wing. The reason X-Wings get more in a game is because they're killing Raider. Each Raider is I think something like 21,000 health, and some of it will lose to environment passive. But that means if X-Wings are doing damage equally, they're getting something close to like 10k for each Raider they kill. And so that's like a lot. So when they get 30 or 40,000 more than a Y-Wing, you can look at that and just think, well, if they kill 3 Raiders, that's almost the whole difference. In terms of the straight capture
Oh.
or shield strip, which isn't measured in the game as well, and they do more with the ions and so on. But like that's what I mean is like your damage is pretty significant, and I would say that's on cruisers and ISD. Like you have a lot of value like doing damage even in a Y-Wing.
Yeah, I think, and that's why I said for cruisers only in my comment, because I know you and I have had this debate as well, but I especially in the ISD, Y-Wings have heavy value because of the turret stripping, and they're doing a lot of damage there as well with the turret stripping. In fact, I would argue that the Y-Wings are more important on ISD than the X-Wings are, past a certain point, obviously. Once the shields are down, power is blown up. I think the Y-Wings are now the main damage dealer there because of the turret stripping ability. So I definitely agree that like that off time should, like, the laser thing is a very important part of that as well, keeping your lasers up in order to get the damage in. But obviously I'm of the PK mindset that not so much PK the offense, but like, when transitioning in, or if I have an off cycle, I will use it to PK to try and slow the bomber down, but not to the point that it's hurting the team. Obviously, if we're behind on offense, then of course my entire time is spent catching up, essentially, right? But I do agree with you that. But the bomber, absolutely, there's no debate. The bomber has to be doing damage the entire time, simply because it is the number one damage dealer on Empire. But on Y-Wings, with the midships up, there's options, but I agree with you that like the options are dependent on the team, and where you find the value in terms of doing it. And your comment about the Raider is actually the Corvette is very important, which I think people miss out on. Like you said, the X-Wings, if they're really doing the mainstay of the damage, it'd be twice the amount. Like they should be closing in on the 90,000 mark. If they're only doing 60,000, then they weren't doing a lot of the damage like they should be doing, right?
Yeah, I I've like always thought that Y-wing damage is a little bit undercounted, but I've even we had an explicit like test one time where we had a game. It was like a scrim, and Sagan and Disco, they're both running Plasbursts on X-wings, so they're like the big damage X-wings, and they happened to not kill a raider that game because we just won the open without the raider, and then we only had like one. We won in like 2 attack phases, so we won the open 2 attack phases. We had one defense, and we just ended up not killing raider because they got like quick kills, and we just farmed it out. Um, and their damage was like only a little bit higher than the Y wings. And
Yeah.
so it's like, even Plasburst X wings are comparable to Y wings when they're on offense.
Yeah.
And I say this from doing a lot of experimenting with B wing running bombs. Like if you like exclude Raider, like the Y wings aren't both the Y wings combined aren't that much less than the B wing. Like Y wings can just do a lot, and you got to be careful when you're on offense, spending time doing other things.
Yeah.
It's not that it's always wrong. It's just you gotta really think carefully about it because I see a lot of people do it and it just clearly like didn't work out for them.
Yeah, it's time management, right? And like I know exactly what you're saying because especially when we're behind, I'll put pressure on the bombers. But like you said, there's a moment where I have to stop myself. Like, okay, I've done this for 15 seconds. I gotta get off of this because they're not gonna die, right? And 15 seconds is too long in my opinion. Like if I caught myself 15 seconds because I fucked up because I'm like, oh man, I should have 5 seconds ago said that I need to go do damage for your exact point. Because even when we're doing the B wing and if Zoltri goes down, I'll be like, okay, it's been Rob last season, but my other one, we're gonna do the damage right now. Just keep resupplying us. So we'll keep just chucking our oxes at this thing, and it will come down. And to your point, we have caught up on damage that way while Zoltri still comes back in. There's points where I'm like, Zoltri, just go bomb the other cruiser because we got this, essentially. Because a very good Y-wing pair doing the orbits properly can definitely get the damage in with the amount of oxes they have, because their ox cycles are very short compared to everyone else, right? So you can get your oxes into there very, very quickly if you're very efficient, essentially, on top of the lasers. And this is a really good discussion. I'm glad we talked about that. This is such a great discussion about, like, because I know we're talking about farming today, but like that concept of what is more important sometimes is critical. And on offense, I wouldn't say that farming doesn't have a place. It has to be opportunistic. Like if it's in front of you kind of deal, or if it's there and it's a 5-pack, take it. There's no reason not to take it. That's half a kill. And that could, back to our point about winning time, that could win 5-10 seconds by forcing the opponents to spend 5 or 10 more seconds trying to re-farm out that 5 morale, essentially, right? But only if it's opportunistic. Trying to hunt for it is time wasted, in my opinion. And I think, I think the discussion is very good and something worth looking at in the future kind of deal. But on top of that, these notes that I have on this page are around that idea of, being efficient with your time and just trying to use what you have to your max advantage. The next page I have here is kind of little nuances of some of the maps. We talked about earlier, Najeri Fostar, you farm it as a back to front as opposed to left or right because of how the spawns, the packs spawn and they move around the space. Do you want to communicate your spacing more forward back? I'm not saying purely forward back, because the Fostar is still kind of left right as well. Like Fostar's a weird map because of how the spawns move, right? They're high, low, middle, left, right, and then they're forward back. They really use that space well, and then they kill themselves on top of that. So you don't always have a 5-pack because they'd love to run themselves into Fostar Haven. I don't understand it, but they do. Xavian's another forward back map. Xavian is another weird map because of the tightness of the space and because of where the asteroids are. I put this note about Galatan. For some reason, a lot of players still don't realize that Galatan, if you are back on your midships, there's 2 asteroids to wide of the midships, one to the left and one to the right. The packs will go around that asteroid and be pretty much a 5-pack every single time. I always farm around that asteroid to try and shorten Galatan's time. But Rod, I know you have a strategy where you're actually able to kind of forward farm a Galatan, right, to try and shorten the timeout, and something I could never pull off. But I don't know, like if you want to speak to some of these like weird nuances of maps and how to make yourself more efficient in some of the very weird maps per se.
So I guess I'll say in general, I think you can make left, right, or forward, back kind of work on every map. It's just kind of like where the farmers are. Um, and it's something you should just do in this situation. But what's important is that the farmers are naturally or communicate and like split properly. Um, so I'll just say that, like, you don't have to strictly do it in one way on every map. For Galatan specifically, um, like the left right on the asteroids is I think the best way to farm. But usually you're not flipping with just that, so you need to get some AI somewhere else. The best time to get them is ideally like right as it flips. Um, and what I'll look to do is get on like the middle or maybe on one of the sides. I'll see if on the sides if I can get 3 or more. Then I might go ahead and farm it while it's like before it really gets into the rocks. Farming in the rocks is like the worst place on that map.
Yeah.
Just because they often get really you'll be like hitting singles the whole time. You don't want to do that. Um, so if you can get 3 or more on the flip on the sides, I think that's worth it. Because one thing I'll say again is like there's no guarantee that there'll be 5 somewhere. They might die to the environment. Something might go wrong, and if you wait for it and it's not there, then you just wasted a ton of time.
Yeah.
So you have to. There's like risk involved with waiting for packs. So if you're not 100% that it's going to form, and you won't be when you have to wait like 20 seconds because a lot can happen in that. There's a risk of waiting. So what I would say is if you're on the sides, I would go ahead and farm it if there's 3 or more. Um, and then or the middle, I'm happy to just take whatever's there. So I'm happy to farm singles in the middle.
I
And
think
then I'll go to the sides, for defense on there.
Yeah, but I think, and that goes back to your communication point, right? I am the same way with Galatan, but I will specifically say to my partner, I'm going to the center, just stay on your side. Because I've definitely seen it where two, I call them like primary farmers, tend to do that both at the same time and then end up shooting the same pack, right? But I agree with you. Like finding like the spaces where you know that there's a pack is going to be, and like on Galatan especially, finding those 2 or 3 and then going back to the asteroid is the time you need anyway for the 5-pack to form on the asteroid at the far end anyway. So you might as well spend that time farming 2 or 3, coming back, getting the 5-pack, and just cycling that essentially.
Something you can do as well, and this isn't guaranteed because there's not always 5. But like right when the phase flips, the AI normally split and then start to converge to some extent again, and that the convergence varies by map. Um, but if you shoot a Golo right as it flips, it often won't kill the 5 because of that split time, because they split and regrouped. But what you could do is laser them before it flips, and then right when it flips, you launch the Golo multi-box,
Ooh.
and then you can laser the 5th one, and that way you get to kill like a clean 5 right on the flip, and you'll get a respawn.
That's a good. That's a great thought. And that goes to like some teams when they don't they don't prep for defense, right? Like prepping for defense, that's a great thought. Like, isn't so much more falling back looking for the 5-pack. It's looking for the 5-pack and lasering them down, so that way, like you just said, the moment it flips, you can unload your payload, and they die
Yeah,
instantaneously.
and then you'll get a clean 5.
Yep,
But that's if it works out ideally. I'll add there's issues that can come up with this, and I'll still do this despite these issues. But you should just be aware of them.
I mean,
Sometimes when you laser them, you get them down a little bit, and then you're waiting for the flip, and the flip just takes a while to happen for whatever reason. And I've had times where like 3 of the AI that I laser died to the environment that, and then it was like, okay, my plan is totally ruined. I have nothing now. So these are like that can be like an issue, and so there's no guarantee this type of stuff will work out. And this is what I'm saying is like the point of doing this kind of stuff is like it won't always work, but probabilistically it'll work some of the time. And when it does, you're saving like real time to help your
Yeah.
team, flip faster and stuff.
and like that's a great point. It's a great point. I can't debate that because I even think about laser. Like I'll lock packs, but I don't think about like I'll shoot them like you said, but I won't laser them to a certain point. But that's a great point. I should go through all 5 of them, laser to all of them while I'm waiting for that flip. I'm sorry, agriculture. You're gonna add something?
No, yeah, like I think that's a good point, right? Like if you shoot them a little bit, I feel like I did that sometimes maybe too. But yeah.
Rod, your comments have been very good. I think these are stuff that like a lot of the newer players need to realize about farming. Like it really is about saving seconds to build an advantage somewhere that will win you the game. because farming is what wins the defense essentially. It's a natural part of the game, and I think it's a fun part of the game. And I know not everyone loves it, but I mean, I surely love it. Rod, I feel you love it. Agriculture, you loved it clearly. So I mean, like, I think it's something that makes the game very interesting. This is the last slide here, everyone, and this is something that I'm gonna add Rod to the credits here, because this is something that Rod definitely reminded me of, that is just as important to farming. Like, I was very focused on the technical aspect of farming, but you're right, Rod. We don't farm cleanly all the time. God, if we could farm clean every day, every game would be a breeze, but we don't, right? And it's very important that under pressure, you do the right things to win the game with your partner, because farming is a team effort, and I think that's also lost to some people. They think it's and you said it earlier, sometimes people get caught in their own numbers to show off, but they forget that it's a team effort. It's not about your number, it's about the team's number together, and whether you as a farming pair farmed enough fast enough to win the game, right? And in order to do that, you have to communicate, which we've said all session long here. And trying to buy yourself space and time to get the work done. I think something I've been recently teaching, which I didn't realize wasn't innate, but I guess it makes sense, is pre-chaffing to protect yourself. And if you think about this as a time effort, a chaff lasts 2 seconds. So that's 2 seconds they can't lock you. So the chaff ends. Now they have to lock you. So that's essentially 3 seconds you've bought yourself of clean time before you have to go full evasive again. And that's a great comment you made to me in the background, that, sometimes people forget to use pre-chaff as a way to get a Golo off in order to get that 5-pack. And they just either use their MLMs and go full evasive, or, inefficiently farm. But if you pre-chaff Golo, you can get a 5-pack even under pressure. And,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Rod.
This is especially important on opens, especially more for Y-wing than TIE bomber, but it's useful for both. Like, if you can get a clean 5-pack while under pressure, that's super valuable. And so if you're not marked and you can chaff and just tank some laser damage and then get the 5, that's like a huge benefit to your team, because now that's going to be, opens have like the best like clean respawns. They're consistently like good for almost every like pack that there is. And so if you get that 5-pack and say you're a Y-wing, this puts pressure on Empire in 2 different ways. If they get off of you at any point, or off of either farmer, then they're going to be able to get that respawn. And because Y-wings can go deeper in the danger zone than TIE bombers, because they can like shield skip in the danger zone, you'll eventually outfarm Empire, even if you're only one. Get them right as they respawn. They don't respawn instantly on opens, but it's fast enough to where like you'll just get ahead of Empire on farm in that situation. So then they have to decide, do they stay on you or do they go to Raider? And if the flexes don't go on Raider, do they put a TIE bomber on it and reduce their farm? And that kind of stuff puts pressure on them as the open drags out. And so if you can pull off like getting a 5-pack under pressure, that's super valuable. And this is why it's important for you to know, are there 1 or 2 flexes on you? Are you marked? Because if there's 2 flexes and you're marked, you probably just have to go full evasive. Maybe you shoot a random stray multi, and that's the best that you can do. And you just have to let your teammate like get everything. But if there's only 1 flex on you, and especially if you're not marked, you gotta like do a good job killing packs. And a lot of people, like, a mistake people make is like they're either on 2 extremes, they're not respecting pressure enough and they just die, or they respect it too much. And you sometimes like taking the risk, you will die, but that's just something you need to do, because you can't just go full evasive from any pressure. Otherwise, you'll just consistently lose opens, and it'll create problems for your team.
And that's funny you say that, right? Because like it's a bit of a meme in Savrip that I die in the opens during practices, but that's because I was putting myself into position like, okay, how much can I push the envelope here to win this, right? And in practice, if you're dying on time, it looks stupid. But then to your point, when I put my practice to paper, and then in the games, I'm at the edge of where I know I can be, and I'm getting that pack faster than the opponents, and I get that 5-pack, right? Like you just said, that puts the opposing team into a position now. Okay, what do we do? Do we switch to objective and try and win back morale? Do we keep putting pressure? Like what? It pushes the objective player, the flex players into a position where how do we respond to this now? Because the game is now going to go back and forth. How do we win this back? And it forces them to rethink their priorities, which forces them possibly into a mistake, essentially, right? And I everything you said was absolutely bang on in that it's winning these small advantages that forces the team into other things, because once the game plan is over, once that first 30-second game plan is over, how do they respond? And if you put them in a position where they weren't expecting it, and winning a 5-pack when they're expecting to kill you instead is a huge advantage. Or to the flip side, taking all the pressure and allowing your opposing pair to farm it out is huge, because then you'd be like, okay, you need to go here. You need to go here. I'm going to go full evasive. This pack should be available. Okay, I'm free. I'm going to farm this 5-pack. You go get the spawns, right? Now you're basically dictating the tempo of play if you do everything right. And that's what you said was a great insight into how we at the highest level make sure that we are winning or losing the opens, essentially, and controlling the flow of play. And definitely it's something that I think it's more advanced now at this point, but I think farmers need to think about as they're getting more confident with their gameplay. How do I be more forward in order to win these things? And I do this by doing these things in order to make sure our team is in the right positions to win that, essentially. Yeah, I mean, God, Roger, your comment's been so good. I'm so glad you were able to make it today. And I don't know, that was the end of the slides. Again, I'll share this with everyone here. Before I go to closing thoughts and ideas, I want to again thank both of you for coming out today. Agriculture, you and I have talked a lot, but you are definitely one of my heroes and one of the people that have influenced and taught me how to play this game. Without the insight that you had shown me earlier on in the game, I probably wouldn't be the player I am today. And Rod, you definitely, I don't care what anyone says. In my mind, you're the best farming bomber in the game. Probably one of the best bombers in the game, period. And the limited time that I've flown with you as a pair was a pleasure. And I kind of wish I had more time to competitively fly with you as a pair. But I mean, your insights and how you see the game today, I think everyone should aspire to, because you are easily the best farming bomber in the game. Definitely top 3, in my opinion, bomber that's out there, period. So I thank you both for doing this with me today, and I give you an opportunity here. Probably start with agriculture. Any closing thoughts, anything you want to say to everyone about farming, or whatever ideas you have before we close this cast today?
No, I just want to say like thanks to the nice words and stuff. Like I was just a player who actually wanted to like PK in Squadrons, and then I found out that this farming thing was a thing, and I was like, wow, that's kind of fun. And I was being told at the start that this wasn't going to be a thing, and I thought, you know what, I think there's something to this, and I wanted to like push it, and then suddenly it's like a real thing, right? So yeah, that's just fun, right? Yeah, I probably just want to say thanks to like probably 5-mans at the start of the game, because that was kind of the hub where you came and like talked to all the teams and stuff, and like thanks to probably like Green Fox leader for setting up all the things at the start, right? Because that was kind of big, I think. And like I feel like after having such a rush and such a fun time, like playing Squadrons, I kind of had like a void after maybe that like stopped.
Come back.
So yeah, I might actually I've actually been thinking about it. But yeah, like I probably wanna like give a shout out to my like good friend and like coworker. I'll call her like TL for the sake of privacy, but it's just for like enjoying life outside of a game and stuff like that. But yeah, like I might come back because I feel like I have some unfinished business here in the game that I felt like I kind of started back then, and I kind of want to explore if that's maybe possible.
Oh,
I don't know.
I think you should. I think I think you'd
Yeah.
fit into the modern game. You guys already had the technique. You don't have to. There's nothing there to teach you about technique wise. You just need some time to get caught up in the speed of the game. And the fact that I gave you a handful of videos because you asked for preparation for today, and you spent this morning or this afternoon for you watching pretty much all of Lauren's videos shows that you still have it in terms of game sense, right? I mean, I would love if you came back for our team, but I mean, if you came back for any team, I think you would enjoy the game, and I think a lot of people would learn a lot from you in particular, just and how you see the game, and it'd be a treat to fly with or against you again, because I mean, I only had a very small window personally to fly against you guys, but for me, I'll never forget the second night I ever flew against you guys. Savrip was scrimming, and we went to rank fleet battles for 3 straight games. You guys were just cranking on us, and you did this double ion torp strategy that I've been trying to get Xerath to do for this entire time. You executed it perfectly. That basically sold to Xerath to try it in SCL, and it worked out for us in our rank play in the Swiss. But you guys were you in particular, but the whole gas, like you guys were amazingly progenitors of this game. I think you fit into the modern game very well. I hope you do come back, agriculture.
Yeah.
And
like,
Rod, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Rod. Agriculture. Sorry.
Yeah, like I think if anything, I might not, like come back as like a competitive player, but I kind of wanna figure out if there are more, like mechanics that I could maybe try or learn or such. So yeah, maybe.
I hope so. And Rod, any closing thoughts from you? Any last ideas before we close the stream today?
I'll say a couple of things. Thanks for the kind words and everything, Rebel, and for doing this, and for Agriculture for joining too. I'll give like one last piece of advice for anyone trying to like get better at farming. Probably the worst way to measure yourself is by how many AI you kill in a game, because it doesn't take into consideration how pressure was applied to the two farmers and how long you spent on defense and stuff. And I'll tell you, like, the best games in terms of like the dominance that I've been in, I killed like less than 10 AI. And that's because we basically won almost on one offense or two offenses and had a super fast defense. Like, because a lot of times I'll hear people like either they'll brag about themselves or other people will fawn over, oh, like I killed 60 AI or whatever. But it's bad to be on defense. Like, you don't want to be on defense.
Yeah.
So if you have to kill a bunch of AI the whole game, like that means you are losing a lot of the time. So the thing that you want to measure is how fast are your defenses. And so if you're serious about getting better, like what I did was I actually looked at replays or streams of my games, or if I recorded it. I generally had trouble recording because I used to be on a bad computer. But I would measure when defenses started and ended, and I would use those times to determine how good my farm was. I didn't care about the numbers because those don't translate directly into like, did you actually win or not? Because having a shorter defense will help you win, not just killing more AI.
I mean, again, that's amazing insight. It's true. I mean, that's why I said the comment earlier. Like, I don't care about my number. I care about my team's number. And you're right. It's about whether you won and how fast your defenses was, and that's a great way of looking at improving yourself as a farmer. Is that if your team isn't doing it fast enough, then you guys need to figure it out because it's just not happening. But yeah, that's great. That's a great discussion point for anyone who's looking to take on this very difficult role, in my opinion. Because your team is definitely looking at you to keep the defenses short, and if you can't do that, then your team is lost essentially. It's hard to not take it personally because I'm not saying that every game is lost because of bad defenses, but you can tell when a game is lost because of bad defense. Great point there. So with that, again, thank you both for spending the time today. Thank you, Agriculture, for the notes that you had given me for the community now, which I'll share right after this, and Rod for the addendums you had added because they were very good. For your time today, guys, I really appreciate it. And to everyone who's watching, thank you for joining us today. This was a discussion of AI farming. I'll have this packaged up very shortly. I'll link the PowerPoint as well as in viewer only mode. So if you want to add any comments or whatever, just send me a message. I'll edit it personally and add something that I find of value. But otherwise, I'm keeping viewer only mode. Otherwise, thank you everyone for the time today and have a good one. Rebel Pilot signing off.